Hey everyone, welcome back. Before I get into today's story, a huge thank you to everyone who has been following my channel. Your support means the world to me. If you're new here, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on what's next. This story, it's not an easy one to tell, but it's one I feel I have to share. It's about a day that started with so much hope and ended with my entire world falling apart. My relationship with Debbie had been a whirlwind of love and laughter for 3 years. She was everything I thought I wanted. Smart, funny, beautiful, we just clicked. Our friends joked that we were inseparable. We talked about a future together all the time, a house, a family, growing old. To me, it wasn't just talk, it was a promise. I was ready to make that promise official. I was ready to ask her to be my wife. I spent weeks meticulously planning the perfect proposal. I didn't want a public spectacle, not really. I wanted something that felt personal but also magical. I decided on an afternoon at the mall. It sounds simple, I know, but there was a plan within the plan. My idea was to drop her off, let her go shopping, which she loved to do, and then tell her I had to rush to the office for a last-minute emergency. The real reason? To go pick up the engagement ring I'd been hiding at a friend's house nearby. My friend Mark was in on the plan and had been guarding the ring like it was a national treasure. The ultimate goal was for her to finish her shopping, call an Uber to take her home, and as she stepped out of the mall's main entrance, she would see me. I'd be there on one knee with the ring and a bouquet of flowers. I'd imagined her reaction 100 times. The look of surprise, the tearful eyes, the yes. That would be the start of our forever. I was so excited I could barely sleep the night before. That morning, everything was perfect. Debbie was buzzing with energy, telling me all about the new collection at her favorite boutique. I just smiled, listening, my mind racing ahead to the moment I would finally propose. The drive to the mall was filled with her voice and my silent excitement. I was so full of love for this woman, I thought my heart would burst. We arrived at the mall, and I dropped her off at the main entrance. We shared a kiss that, to me, felt like a promise of what was to come. As I drove away, I was already practicing what I was going to say. I was running late for my secret mission. I had to pick up the ring, set everything up, and be back in position before she finished her shopping. I felt like a spy on the most important mission of his life. But then I saw it. On the passenger seat, her purse. My heart sank. She'd forgotten her purse, and her wallet was inside. She had no money for her shopping trip. My perfect plan, my grand gesture, it all hinged on her enjoying her day, and she couldn't do that without her purse. I couldn't just leave her. That wasn't who I was. I had to go back, or I should just rush to my friend's house and get the ring as quickly as possible. My mind pondering on what to do next. So I just made up my mind, since Mark's house is nearby, I can quickly go grab the ring and rush back. And that's exactly what I did. Went and grabbed the ring, and I made a U-turn and raced back to the mall. My adrenaline, which had been pumping with excitement, was now fueled by a desperate urgency to correct this small mistake. I parked the car, grabbed the purse, and rushed inside. I figured I'd find her quickly, hand her the purse, and then I could still execute my plan just a little later. I walked past the food court and started scanning the crowds, looking for her familiar face. The mall was a sea of people, a buzzing, chaotic mess of weekend shoppers. I moved with purpose, trying to find her without drawing too much attention. And then I saw her. She was standing outside her favorite boutique, laughing and talking to a guy I didn't recognize. He was handsome, dressed well, and he was leaning in close as they spoke. A small, irrational flicker of jealousy went through me, but I brushed it off. It was just a guy. Debbie was friendly, and there was nothing wrong with the conversation. I started to walk toward them, my heart still pounding. Not from love or excitement now, but from the rush of trying to get this done. As I got closer, I slowed my pace. I didn't want to interrupt their conversation abruptly. I just wanted to get her attention, hand her the purse, and get back to my mission. I was about 10 feet away when I heard him ask her a question that would shatter my entire world. He said with a casual smile, "So, are you in a relationship right now?" I froze. My feet felt glued to the floor. All the noise of the mall, the chatter, the music, the laughter, it all faded into a dull roar. The only thing I could hear was the pounding of my own heart in my ears. I watched her, my beautiful Debbie, the woman I was about to ask to marry me. I watched her throw her head back and laugh. That laugh, the one I loved so much, now sounded hollow and cruel. Her response. Her response was a sentence that will be seared into my memory forever. Do I look like I'm in a relationship? Of course not. I'm single. Single! The word hit me like a physical blow. The ring box clutched tightly in my left hand felt like a lead weight. My other hand, holding her purse, felt like an anchor. My mind reeled, searching for an explanation. You're single? Was this some kind of prank? My heart and my gut knew the truth, even if my brain was desperately trying to deny it. The pain was so sudden and so sharp, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought I knew about our relationship, everything we had built, was a lie. A carefully constructed lie she had just casually dismantled in a single sentence. I was standing there, holding the physical proof of my love and the proof of her betrayal at the same time. Somehow I kept my composure. I had to. I had to face this. I walked the last few feet, the world a blurry mess around me. When I reached them, I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just said, my voice eerily calm, "Miss Single, here's your purse. You forgot it in my car." The look on her face when she turned around, it was pure panic. The color drained from her cheeks, and her eyes, which had just been filled with laughter, were now wide with fear. She saw me. She saw the purse, and then her eyes fell to the ring box in my other hand. The box I'd hoped to open to her with a smile was now a silent witness to her deception. She saw the box, the beautiful velvet box that held the ring I'd been so excited to give her, the symbol of everything I thought we were. And in that moment, all the panic and feigned innocence melted away, replaced by a desperate scramble to control the narrative. "Oh my God, James, it's not what you think," she stammered, her voice high and shaky. "Please, let me explain. I was just joking around. You know I do that sometimes." But her words were hollow. The laughter was gone. The casual lie was exposed. And the sheer audacity of her trying to pass it off as a joke felt like a fresh insult. A joke? About our entire relationship? About the love and trust we had built? That wasn't a joke, it was a dagger. "Really?" I asked, my voice still unnaturally calm. "Because I didn't hear a punchline, Debbie. I heard you tell a complete stranger that you're single." She took a step closer, her hand reaching out for mine, but I instinctively pulled back. "I didn't mean it. I swear. I was just making conversation. He was just being friendly, and I didn't want it to get weird, but it was already weird. It was the most surreal, heartbreaking, and terrifying moment of my life. I looked down at the ring box in my hand, then at the purse in my other, and the irony of it all nearly broke me. One was a symbol of commitment, the other a symbol of a forgotten necessity. And in the space between them, our relationship had vanished. She saw me looking at the ring box again, and her eyes lit up with a new kind of desperation. "You were going to propose, weren't you? Please, James, please don't let this ruin everything." "You can still do it." "I'll say yes. I want to be your wife. I want to marry you." Her words were meant to be a comfort, but they sounded like a bargain. A desperate plea to salvage the elaborate lie she had been living. My heart was a frozen block of ice in my chest. The joy, the anticipation, the love, it was all gone, replaced by a profound, hollow emptiness. "Yes," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I was, but not anymore." Her face crumpled. The tears that had been threatening to fall finally did. "No, please don't say that. Please, just propose. I'll accept. I'll be the best wife you could ever imagine, I promise." I couldn't. I just couldn't. The moment was poisoned. The beautiful memory I had planned was now forever tainted by her lie. My vision of a happy future with her was shattered. I couldn't start our marriage with a foundation of deceit. I simply handed her the purse. "Here's your money. Enjoy your shopping." I turned and walked away. I couldn't look at her anymore. The pain in my chest was too immense. I just wanted to get out of there, away from the sight of her, away from the beautiful lie we had been living. "Wait, James, please," she called after me. She ran after me, grabbing my arm just as I reached the mall doors. "Go to the guy you told you were single," I said, my voice low and flat. I looked back at the man she had been talking to, who was standing there awkwardly, watching the scene unfold. His face was a mixture of confusion and shock, but as he processed what was happening, his expression hardened. He shook his head. "Sorry," he said, and the words were directed at Debbie, not me. "I think I'll pass. I wouldn't want to be with someone who jokes with their relationship. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there alone, with a purse full of money and a shattered engagement ring I was never going to give her. I walked out of the mall into the sunshine that felt so incongruous with the storm inside me. I got in my car and drove away, leaving her there. Her frantic calls and texts started almost immediately, but I ignored them all. The sight of her name on my phone screen felt like a physical assault. Every buzz, every notification was a reminder of her betrayal. The calls and texts soon gave way to something else. Calls from my friends, from my family. Debbie had gone into full-blown damage control mode. She was telling everyone that we had a misunderstanding, that I was being irrational and overreacting, and that they needed to talk me out of leaving her. Her manipulation knew no bounds. She wasn't trying to fix things with me. She was trying to get our support system to turn on me. It was exhausting and infuriating. Every call I took from a friend started with, "Hey man, I just talked to Debbie. Are you sure you're not just overreacting? She said it was a joke." I had to explain the situation over and over again, defending my pain and my decision. The fact that she was willing to do this, to try and turn everyone against me, only solidified my choice to end things. The silence of my apartment felt deafening. The place was filled with her presence, a half-empty bottle of her favorite wine on the counter, her hair tie on my nightstand, the little succulents we had planted together in the window. Everywhere I looked, there was a ghost of our life, the one I thought was real. A few days later, just as I was starting to come to terms with the silence, I heard it. A faint but insistent knocking on my door. Then it grew louder, more frantic. I knew it was her without even looking. I walked to the door and peered through the peephole. It was Debbie, her face red and tear-streaked, pounding on the door and pleading for me to open up. "James, please. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Just let me in." Her voice was a broken mess of sobs and desperation. I just stood there, leaning my back against the wall, listening to her pleas. My heart ached at the sound of her pain, but the memory of her words in the mall and her attempts to manipulate our friends was a shield. I knew that opening that door would be a mistake. She would apologize, she would cry, she would promise to change, and I would believe her again. I couldn't risk that. I had to stay strong. Hours passed. The banging turned into a rhythmic, desperate knocking, then to soft, pleading sobs, and eventually to silence. I held my breath waiting, wondering if she was finally gone. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Had I been too cruel? Was this all a misunderstanding? Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was the bad guy in this story. I couldn't take the silence anymore. I had to know. I slowly walked to the door and opened it. She was gone. The hallway was empty. For a second, I felt a pang of relief, but then a new wave of sadness. Had I just ruined everything for good? I was about to close the door when I heard a small noise. I looked down. There, slumped against the doorframe, was Debbie. She was on her knees, her face buried in her hands, and in front of her was a handmade cardboard sign. On it in big shaky letters were two words, "I'm sorry." My heart shattered. I couldn't stay angry. Not at the sight of her, so broken, so vulnerable. This was the Debbie I knew, the one I had loved, the one I thought was my partner. The angry words, the manipulation of my friends, it all seemed to fade away in the face of her genuine distress. My emotional guard, which had been so carefully constructed over the past few days, crumbled. I reached down and gently helped her to her feet. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy, and she collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The feel of her in my arms, the smell of her hair, the familiar weight of her body, it was all too much. I held her, stroking her hair, my heart a confusing mess of pain and forgiveness. "I'm so sorry. James," she whispered into my chest, her voice choked with tears. "It was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I don't know what I was thinking. Please, please forgive me." I held her for a long time, the silence broken only by her quiet sobs. When she finally pulled away, I looked into her eyes, and all I could see was the woman I loved. The lie at the mall felt like a distant, terrible dream. I gave her one final stern warning, my voice firm and serious. "Debbie," I said, "what you said was not a joke. It was a lie. And it broke my heart. I am letting you in, but you need to understand something. This is the last time. You will never, ever joke about our relationship again. Do you understand me?" She nodded furiously, her eyes filled with a new kind of sincerity. "I understand." I promise. Never again. I wanted to believe her. I desperately wanted to believe her. And in that moment, I did. That night, after things had calmed down, she looked at me with a hopeful expression. So, are you still going to propose? The question caught me off guard. Part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to say yes. To go back to the original plan, to pretend that the last few days never happened. But the part of me that had been so deeply hurt, the part that had been standing in that mall with a ring in one hand and her purse in the other, couldn't. The trust was gone. It would take time to rebuild. I need more time, Debbie, I said honestly. I need time to think about it. I need time to heal. She accepted my answer, her face falling slightly, but she nodded. Okay, she said, her voice quiet. I understand. I'll wait. I'll wait as long as it takes. And for a few days, it felt like everything was going to be okay. It felt like we were on the path to healing. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and I couldn't shake it. For the next few days, I tried. I really did. I tried to believe her. I tried to go back to normal. We went on dates, we watched movies, we held hands. But it was all just an act. My mind, which had once been filled with thoughts of a future with her, was now constantly replaying her words in the mall. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something, that the joke was just the tip of the iceberg. The trust had been shattered, and a relationship without trust is just two people sharing the same space. I found myself becoming a detective in my own life. I started paying closer attention to her phone, to her conversations, to her whereabouts. I know how that sounds, and believe me, it's not who I am. But after what happened, I couldn't just blindly trust her anymore. I was terrified of being hurt again, of being made a fool of. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it was. One night, I was in the living room, watching TV, when I heard her go into the bathroom. She was on the phone, and the door was slightly ajar. I heard her voice, low and conspiratorial, and a pit formed in my stomach. I couldn't help but listen. The words that came next were not a misunderstanding. They were not a joke. They were the cold, hard truth. He doesn't know I'm having an affair with a few other guys, and I made sure he didn't notice anything, she said, her voice filled with a sickening confidence. He's planning on proposing to me, and when he does, that's when I'll stop the cheating. I've tried several times, but I couldn't, because I get what I want from them intimately more than I get from him. The words hit me with the force I can't even describe. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a complete and utter obliteration of everything I thought our relationship was. It wasn't a game for money, but a cruel and calculated scheme where she was openly unfaithful, all while pretending to love me. The sheer callousness in her voice, the casual way she spoke about cheating and about my love life as something she was simply tolerating, it was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. My heart, which had just started to heal, was ripped open again. This time, it felt like it was gone for good. I didn't say a word. I didn't scream or confront her in that moment. I simply got up and went to our bedroom, a silent storm raging inside me. I started packing. Not my things, but hers. Every dress, every book, every gift I'd ever given her, I put them into boxes. The process was mechanical, fueled by a mixture of rage and a profound sense of emptiness. Each item I packed was a reminder of a memory I now knew was built on a lie. I took the boxes and placed them outside my front door. I was done. There was no going back from this. When she came out of the bathroom, a smile on her face, she was caught completely off guard. She saw the boxes, the packed bags, and then she saw me. My face must have been a mask of stone, because her smile instantly vanished. "What's going on, James?" she asked, her voice trembling with a new kind of fear. I just pointed at the boxes. "Your things are outside. I think it's time for you to go." Her eyes went wide with panic. "Wait." "No, James, what are you doing?" I love you. This is our home." She quickly switched to her old tactics, trying to gaslight me into believing I was wrong. What did I do? "You're just being paranoid. You're making things up." "I heard your phone call, Debbie," I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. "I heard you talking about your affairs, about how you only plan to stop cheating once I propose." I heard everything. She immediately denied it. "No, I wasn't on the phone. That's not what you heard. You're imagining things. You're being crazy." She started crying again, trying to make it look like I was an abusive partner who was wrongly accusing her. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not cheating. You're just trying to get rid of me." But I was no longer fooled. I pulled out my phone and played the audio recording I had made of her conversation. Her eyes grew wider as she heard her own voice, her own words, confirming everything. That's when the lies stopped. The tears stopped. The panic was replaced by a cold fury. She became violent. She tried to grab my phone, screaming at me, but I pulled away. Her insults and verbal abuse were unleashed on me. She called me every name under the sun, a sick, controlling monster who had ruined her life. She told me that since she was exposed now, she wouldn't stop until I paid for everything she had gone through. She wanted me to suffer. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I just looked at her, then at the door. "Please leave, Debbie," I said, my voice finally breaking slightly with the weight of it all. "Just go." She picked up a box and stormed out, slamming the door behind her with a sound that seemed to signal the end of our story. It's been a while since that night. The pain is still there, but it's a dull ache now, not a gaping wound. I had to learn a hard lesson that love isn't always enough. You need honesty. You need trust. And most importantly, you need to trust yourself. I had to learn to listen to my gut, to not ignore the red flags, no matter how much I wanted to believe in the person I loved. To all of you watching, I want to say this. Please be vigilant in your relationships. Don't let yourself be so consumed by love that you ignore the signs. Who you think you'll spend the rest of your life with may have other plans for you. They may have a different agenda. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And you deserve a relationship built on a foundation of respect and truth, not lies and manipulation. Thank you for listening to my story. If any of this resonated with you, if you've been through something similar, please share your experience in the comments below. Let's create a space where we can all learn from each other. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos.